I just went on a trip to Japan and I came back with one of these. This is the new Nikon Z5 Mark II. And I just want to talk about my initial thoughts of spending a week in Tokyo taking photos and videos with this camera. Yeah, and I'm not going to list off the spec sheet. There are many other YouTube videos that have done that already. I just want to share my experience of using it for the first time. You know, the feel, image quality, features, and navigating the menus, which mine are all in Japanese. We'll get to that. So that you know, I'm not an expert. I'm a musician first and foremost, actually. I'm still fairly new to photography. I'm hoping that I can share some of my journey, and mostly you'll probably see me fumble around like an ill-informed buffoon trying to figure things out as I go along. Let's see. I mean, I'm probably not going to do the standard macro product photography style B-roll. Well, maybe just a few. They are quite satisfying. Firstly, the camera feels great to hold. The grip's really deep and comfortable. It's quite a chunky camera, but it's not too heavy. I had no problem with carrying it around in the city for most of the day. Personally, I quite like using these wrist straps, so you really are hanging onto the grip a lot. So that was something that was quite important to me when deciding which camera to buy. For instance, I did have some concerns about the ZF for that exact reason. Comfortable and functional, I would say. I think the button layout is great too for my hands. Those do all the buttony things that they need to. Although I must say this D-pad is a little bit more smushy than what I'm used to. Yeah, even the D300 has a bit more clickiness to it. I don't know, I don't find it to be a particular problem. I wonder if it has to do with the weather sealing or something. I love this little extra button as well. The Pikuchiya Control button, as it is in Japanese. But you don't have to use it for that, it's basically just an extra function button, really. Like for instance, in photo mode, I have mine set up for pixel shift. That's not that easy to say. Pixel shift shooting, and in video, it switches my zebras on and off. So yeah, essentially an extra function button if you don't want it to be picture control. I was actually very pleasantly surprised by this LCD screen as well. It's very, very sharp and definitely a lot higher resolution to what I'm used to. The viewfinder is decent, natural looking and sharp as well. No complaints really. This is actually my first full frame camera. I'm coming from the original Nikon Z5ii as my main camera, and my partner and I bought that camera as well as this one as a kind of joint venture type of thing. We're mostly hobbyists first and foremost. We both do a lot of photo and video. But yeah, some of the footage that you'll see of us using this camera is going to be shot with the Z5ii, which is also what's shooting me right now. But now that that's out of the way, I'm going to switch over to the Z5 Mark II to capture my photons in glorious full frame, so that you can get a better idea of the video capabilities of this and how the image looks. And also, maybe we can do a little side-by-side comparison as well. Mostly for my own curiosity, because I'm so used to the footage from this Z5ii, so I really want to see how it compares. So yeah, let's do that. Switcheroonie. Switcheroono. So here we are, on the Z5 Mark II. How's it looking? I tried my best to match the shot as best I could between the two cameras. I also used a similar focal distance, equivalent-wise. I did have to change the lighting up a little bit though. I had to back them off a bit because it was coming across a little bit too kind of harsh on the Z5 Mark II compared to the Z5ii, interestingly. I would actually quite like to do kind of a more in-depth video comparing these two cameras actually. By the way, look how tiny this looks right now. So tiny. In fact, wait a minute. Let's look at the size of the Z5ii compared. Product review mode confirmed. Just thought, good time to try that out whilst we're at it. Also, it does make you realize these new Expeed 7 cameras, whilst you get a lot more advanced features, obviously, clearly they do kick out a lot more heat because this one with the Expeed 6 processor, just look how skinny and tiny it was. It'd be quite cool to compare the Z5ii Mark II as well. That would be interesting. Let's see what the future holds. Back to the regular eye detecting now. To be fair, I am actually loving this front-facing LCD screen as well, the flippy flip. which the Z5ii didn't have. It had one of these ones. What was I talking about? Notes. So overall, photos and videos, I've been really impressed with the quality and the colors and everything coming out of this camera. And of course, I'll share some of the things that we captured with this camera throughout the video. I say we because we were kind of passing the two cameras back and forth throughout the trip mostly. But yeah, from that, hopefully you can get a pretty good idea of the quality. So getting into the first few hours with this camera, I immediately wanted to test out the new RAW formats I'd been hearing about, the high efficiency star and all the rest of it. I wanted to see how those were. So I checked on the menu, I was like, okay, so fine star, I guess that's it. So I put it in that, not realizing that that is of course JPEG fine. Probably again, partly to do with the Japanese menus. We'll get to that. But yeah, I didn't realize that the RAW setting had its own kind of sub menu where you can then choose the high efficiency star or the uncompressed or whatever. But that was a happy accident because now I can show you the JPEGs out of this camera, which were some of the first images that I took, and I probably would have forgotten to do that otherwise, so all's well that ends well, I guess. And these are the sort of things that as a first-time user you might not realize, just like I stupid didn't. So hopefully it's useful information for someone. I'm switching it round. And like I said, my partner and I both shoot quite a lot of video these days, probably equal parts video to photo actually. But most of the video that we shoot is actually vertical format video because it's mostly for social media, Instagram Reels and that sort of thing. And our preferred format for that is 1080p, 60 frames per second. So the majority of the footage that you're gonna see from Tokyo is gonna be in that form, just so that you're aware of that. But it'll be a great way to show the 1080p quality out of this camera, which, as with the Z5ii as well, I've been really, really happy with. It's really sharp on both cameras and really organic looking, but I suspect that this one's maybe a bit sharper. Let's see. But don't worry as well, right now we're shooting in the full shebang, the 4K. It's at 25 frames per second. I believe it's oversampled, and 10-bit N-Log. How's my exposure? This is my first time working with any sort of log footage, so wish me luck. And the way that I was exposing this when we were on the trip was, again, I didn't really have much time to sort of dive into the menus and figure out all the exposure tools and that. But yeah, I was basically sticking it in auto ISO, and then the base ISO for N-Log is 800. So I would then adjust either the aperture or the variable ND filter until the auto ISO bumped it up to 1000, and then back it off so that I know that I'm just about right. So let's see how all of those videos look exposure-wise. I was also keeping an eye on the histogram and the zebras and stuff, but that's how I did it. But yeah, like I say, we shoot a lot of both photo and video, and I really love the way that the Nikon cameras are set up to switch between photo and video mode. You get a separate set of settings for each mode, and you get a separate little eye menu that can be programmed differently for each mode, and it switches between the two really quickly and seamlessly as well, which is nice. And personally, I kind of think that all camera menus are pretty rubbish by today's standards. When you compare them to things like smartphones and computers and iPads and all the rest of it, it's just like endless black lists of texts like MS-DOS or something. And I can see how it is quite overwhelming for someone that's new to using cameras as well. But I do actually really like the eye menus on the Nikon cameras and the way that those are implemented. The way that you can navigate them with the various camera controls, the touch functionality, and all of the sort of sub-menus and the way that they're laid out. I think that those are actually great. I know that a lot of other manufacturers have a sort of similar thing to this as well, but in fact, if there were 2 pages of the eye menu, yeah, like I wish there were just like 2 pages worth of that. Then I could have pretty much everything I would need to use on a regular basis in the eye menu. That way, I'd probably never go into like the main menu anyway and navigate all this Japanese text, which, yeah, I suppose it's probably about time to address the Japanese language on this camera. We were very aware going into this that Nikon, and I believe a bunch of other brands, were starting to sell some of their newer cameras in Japan with only Japanese language installed on there. I think it was something to do with people just flooding in and buying like everything when the yen was really, really weak. You can get other languages installed on these cameras at a cost. And we bought this camera from Map Camera in Shinjuku, which is really close actually to the Nikon Plaza. And the clerk that sold us the camera even was like, you can just go down the road to the Nikon Plaza and get the English language installed on there for, she estimated between 6,000 and 8,000 yen, which is not that expensive at all. But don't quote me on those prices because, spoiler alert, my partner and I were just like, should we just not? Now for some context, we both speak a little bit of Japanese, her way better than me. And since we're both studying the language anyway, we were saying maybe it's an opportunity and it's going to kind of force us to improve our reading a little bit. It's actually been fine. It's been very doable mostly with my limited level of Japanese. A lot of the kanji, these symbols, are way over my head though, so Google Translate has been employed on multiple occasions already. But it's nice to know that that's also quite easily an option if you're in a tough spot. It's all been fun. But yeah, what it has done as a result though is it's made me take a lot longer to really dive into some of the functions and features of this camera, as you could probably imagine. Because we've only really had APS-C cameras in the past, the only full frame lenses that we had, other than this 40mm f2, which is a fairly recent acquisition, was the Z105 macro, an old Sigma zoom lens, and then a few kind of vintage manual focus lenses. So in Tokyo, we were actually able to really test out these new manual focus implementations that I've heard so much about on these new Z cameras. And I love all of these super precise and sharp modern lenses as well. But something that my partner and I both really love to do is find all of these old lenses and get these unique and different looks to our photos and videos. And that's something that this camera has already proven like amazing for, so we've been really happy with that. My partner and I have been to Japan and to Tokyo before, but for some reason this time around we really got quite into the buildings. And if you've been, you'll know what I mean. You'll get these big blocks of sort of modern skyscrapers and things, and then nestled in between them almost impossibly, you'll get these tiny little more traditional buildings, and the kind of like juxtaposition of those is so cool. And we ended up taking quite a lot of photos of those buildings and just the way that they kind of almost hide in plain sight on the streets. I really like that. And a lot of that ended up being in lower light. And then of course at night, all the neon signs and things look amazing. So we just realized really quickly how well we could get a super sharp image at a really low shutter speed. So yeah, even in the first few days, the stabilization, which is a feature I never even thought I would need, ended up playing a really huge part in making this camera a real pleasure to use. So more on the video side, how is the 4K super duper oversampled footage looking? Joyous, I would hope. Let's look at that Z5ii footage side by side again one more time. I bet it holds up alright though, to be honest. I always think the video in that camera is pretty decent for what it is. But I think in here, I'm mostly going to be using this 4K mode, so I'm interested to see how that turns out. It's just been interesting trying out all these different modes and seeing what I can get out of them as a log noob, as it were. I haven't tried the RAW yet, which, well, because I'm not made of hard drive space. I shall report my findings, don't you worry. I do plan to do like a deeper look into the video features of this camera because I think it is quite interesting, especially for someone like myself that's coming from these older cameras that didn't really have a lot of these newer features. So hopefully that will be on the horizon. I have plans. One function that I am actually kind of missing on this camera, weirdly, from the Z5ii, has to do with the focus. As of yet, I can't see a way to just override any autofocus subject detect mode that you might have going on with the click of one button like you can on the Z5ii. you just press the OK button, and that just brings up like a small autofocus box, and it'll just rack focus to anything that's in that box, which is something that I do actually use a lot on the Z5ii. I know that the autofocus system is just way more advanced anyway, so I probably shouldn't complain. Maybe there is a way of setting it up so that it is more like that, but just something that I've noticed so far anyway. More testing to come. Another thing that I wanted to mention relating to the focus is, like I said, we use a lot of manual focus lenses, adapted, and I really love the manual focus assist tools that are new to this camera. And one thing in particular that's awesome is when you kind of punch in to like really fine tune the focus, you just do a half press of the shutter button after that and it'll zoom back out again, which is so nice. But the problem that I've found is that that feature doesn't work if I'm using the manual focus override with an autofocus lens. Half pressing the shutter button will just reinitiate the autofocus. So I'm wondering if there's a way around that somehow, maybe with like back button focus or something. I don't know. One other thing that I really wanted to mention that I noticed had to do with editing. My partner and I both use Lightroom Classic to edit our photos. The only difference is she's on Mac and I'm on Windows. And what I noticed when loading the raw files into Lightroom on my Windows computer is that some of the sliders already have adjustments made to them, whereas when my partner does it on her Mac, they're all at 0, like I would be expecting. And I would think maybe it's just me being an idiot and I have some like weird setting switched on accidentally or something, but that's never happened with any other camera that I've used, including another Nikon Z camera. Does it have something to do with the high efficiency star files? Like, I don't know. Maybe somebody knows if I'm doing something wrong. Let me know in the comments if you've encountered this same issue or you know what I'm doing wrong. Like, in fact, anything that I've mentioned in this video, please do drop a comment if you have any thoughts or maybe some fixes for some of the problems that I've mentioned. Or maybe you're considering the Z5 II yourself, or maybe you have thoughts or feelings about another camera. I said that weird. I guess that just about covers it really for this kind of first impressions sort of video coming from a non-expert such as myself. I will probably have some affiliate links at some point down below for some of the gear that I've talked about on this video. So if you would like to help out this brand new channel, that's a really great way to do it. It doesn't cost you any extra, and anything that you do decide to buy through those links, I'll get a tiny, 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 tiny commission from. So yeah, I really appreciate you watching this first ever video on this channel. I kind of hope that some newer users will get something out of these videos, because that's more or less what I am. I'm just fumbling my way through. But anyway, yeah, hopefully stay tuned for some more videos like this one. And thanks very much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed it. How does it keep up with these fast movement tests that everyone always does that don't really happen in real life? Seems all right.